The mist came first. Not as weather, not as accident, but as invitation. And once the mist had settled, there was no road back. No sound but the hush of wool-thick fog winding through trees like forgotten breath. Barovia does not announce itself. It waits. The trees of the Svalak woods lean with a sentient stillness, as if each trunk remembers something it cannot bear to retell. Between them, the wind moves sluggishly, reluctant, silenced by the weight of unseen eyes. And deeper still, where the canopy breaks to reveal a ruined sky, Castle Ravenloft watches, unmoving on the cliffs of the Balanok Mountains. A silhouette of obsidian glass and gothic intent. There are whispers that Strahd von Zarovich still walks its halls. Not as man, not even as ghost, but as hunger made sovereign, a monarch of regret. The village roads, paved once in hope and cobblestone, now run with mud and memory. Barovians speak softly. They bake their loaves in silence, nail charms of bone and lavender to their doors, and leave offerings to saints no longer named. It is not fear that rules them, but habit grown from it. Like ivy around gravestones. There is no sun. Or rather, there is a place in the sky where the sun should be. A pale, tired disk that never climbs nor sets. Just hovers. Like the gaze of something unblinking. And you were not meant to come here. Or perhaps you always were. Some say Barovia calls only those already broken. Others say it calls the strong, to make them kneel. The mists do not reason. They do not argue. They part when they wish, and close behind like stitched flesh. You remember stepping forward. A worn signpost. A crooked gate. The smell of damp stone and ash trees. You remember thinking you'd leave footprints, but the ground had none. Only cold, shallow mud that swallowed every mark like a secret. A raven watched you from the crooked fence post. One eye clouded, the other too sharp. It did not call. It waited, as if to see whether you would run. But where would you run? There are no edges in Barovia, only circles. So you walked, one foot after the next, through a world stitched from sorrow and silence. And when the last memory of your name fluttered behind you like a torn page, the mist closed, and the story began. Now, a door creaks open in the village of Barovia, and a letter awaits, sealed with blood-red wax. The tale of Count Strahd von Zarovich is not yet done, nor are you done with it. The castle is waiting, and so is he. The village of Barovia sits in the cradle of fog like an old man in a dying garden. Its crooked rooftops and sagging eaves lean toward each other, as if whispering things too brittle to speak aloud. Everything is grayed by time, not simply by age, but by resignation. Color flees this place. It runs like water from torn cloth, leaving behind only shades of ash and bone. Carts with broken wheels rest beneath crumbling awnings. The fields lie fallow, not from drought or war, but because hope stopped planting them. Chickens peck at bare earth with empty eyes. And sometimes, in the morning fog, a bell rings. Not from the church. That one has been silent since the priest's boy died. No, the bell is not rung, but moves on its own, as though the mist itself remembers a time when prayers had purpose. Children do not play here. They peer from behind curtains with the stillness of portraits. If they cry, it is not the kind of sound that carries. It is a closed thing. A private grief repeated over many quiet years. There is a woman in the square who sells bread no one eats. Her name is Madalena. Her hands are caked in flour and gilt. She sets her loaves on a worn cloth beneath a dying oak, and hums a lullaby older than her voice. No one buys. But she bakes each morning, just the same. Above the square looms the burgomaster's mansion, or what remains of it. A half-collapsed husk of mold and mildew, with ivy crawling like veins across the stone. Its shutters hang like broken wings. Inside, the ghost of a daughter still lights candles by habit. The rooms remember her. The dust listens. At night, wolves howl. But they do not come from the woods. They circle the village, unseen, like a curse-grown teeth. The people lock their doors and hang garlic on the lintels. They whisper names of saints that no longer answer. Once, long ago, there was music. There was a festival, ribbons in the air, violins on porches, cider brewed with apples that no longer grow. Some of the elders say they can still hear it, faintly, when the wind moves the right way. But most do not listen anymore. The tavern, the blood on the vine, stays open. Barely. Its hearth burns low, more smoke than flame. The three sisters who run it, Marquisa, Alenka, and Mirabelle, speak only to each other. They are not cruel, only worn. Like pages turned too many times. Inside, travelers sometimes gather. Strays pulled from other lands. Lost souls chasing gold or fate. They speak of escape, of resistance, of quests. And the locals do not argue. They simply nod, sip their wine, and wait for the screams to start. Because every road leads back here. The paths turn. The woods twist. And the fog always finds you. The people of Barovia do not pray for salvation. They pray for forgetfulness. That they might wake one day and not remember their own names. That they might fade into the mist like dreams unspoken. But the land remembers. It watches. And beneath the village, the bones of saints and monsters share the same soil. On the tallest hill, beneath the dead branches of a weeping tree, there is a grave with no name. The dirt never settles. And no one speaks of who was buried there. Only that he was not the first. And will not be the last. This is Barovia. Not cursed by chance, but curated by will. And in the shadow of Castle Ravenloft, even time forgets how to pass. At the edge of the village, where the cobblestone gives way to overgrown path, there stands a house. It is tall and narrow, its gables crooked like the teeth of a predator frozen mid-snarl. The shutters hang open, though no breeze dares stir them. No birds land upon its eaves. No vines climb its stone. It is too still. Too neat. As if waiting. The locals call it the Durst House, though none living remember when that name had meaning. Children are told not to go near it. Parents pretend it is simply a ruin. But sometimes, on quiet mornings, one might see footprints appear in the dust leading up its steps. Though none were seen to make them. The house is wrong. Not just haunted, not merely cursed. It is hungry. Many years ago, a man and a woman brought their children here. Gustav and Elizabeth Durst. They were not kind. They were not cruel. They were empty. Like vessels waiting to be filled with something darker than devotion. They worshipped a thing with no name. A presence older than language, trapped beneath the foundation stones. It demanded blood. They gave it theirs. At first, small things. Goats. Chickens. Then travelers. Then friends. And finally themselves. But their children. Their children did not understand. Rose and Thorn. Two fragile names stitched in thread above a nursery door. They cried for help. They waited. And when no help came, they died behind a locked door, cold and alone, clutching each other in silence. The house did not let them go. It wore them. Like perfume. Like a lie. Now, the house builds itself around the memory of family. It lays out food that never spoils. It sets fires that do not warm. It lights chandeliers where no hands reach. And always, always, it waits for new guests. Wanderers who seek shelter from the mists. Heroes who follow sobs through shuttered windows. adventurers who think they've entered just another old home. But the rooms shift. The walls remember. And beneath the floorboards, the cult's altar still weeps red. Those who go and find doors that do not lead out. They find songs hummed by no one. They find dolls with teeth. And sometimes, they find rose and thorn, still waiting for their parents to wake. To speak to them is to remember a childhood you never lived. To hold their ghost hands is to weep for something that was never yours. And if you stay too long, the house will give you a name, a role, a room, and eventually a grave. The people of Barovia do not tear the house down. They do not burn it. They do not speak of it in anything louder than a whisper. Because the house listens. Because the house forgets nothing. Because every time someone enters, the house smiles a little wider. And the fog parts, just long enough to let them through. Not as mercy, but as bait. There are places in Barovia worse than death. This is one of them. And still, the front door remains slightly ajar. Welcoming. As if to say, "Come home." High above the valley, where the wind howls like a starving dog through jagged crags, Castle Ravenloft leans into the sky like a cathedral mourning its gods. It was not built. It was declared. Stone by stone, it rose from the spine of the cliffs with the inevitability of prophecy. It does not crumble, for ruin would be too kind. It endures, like a wound unhealed. The villagers call it his keep, though few dare speak his name. Count Strahd von Zarovich. The first. The last. The forever. They say he walks the parapets at dusk, a silhouette outlined in crimson cloud. They say the castle moves when no one looks, that its halls realign to mirror the moods of its master. Inside, time forgets itself. Tapestries never rot. Wine never sours. Candles burn with flame that casts no heat. And portraits watch with eyes too knowing. Strahd does not sleep. He waits. The man he once was, warrior, tactician, prince of a dying land, is long buried beneath layers of velvet and venom. What remains is will. Pure, sharp, and bitter. A will so strong that even death bent before it. He did not choose vampirism. He shaped it, refined it, turned curse into crown. The tale they whisper, from tavern lips to forest wind, is of Tatiana, a girl of fire hair and clear laughter. A beauty so bright it scorched his shadowed soul. But she loved another. And in that betrayal, the last spark of the man he had been was extinguished. He made a pact. Some say it was with the dark powers of the Shadowfell. Others believe it was with the land itself. Or something older, buried deep beneath Barovia's skin. He drank blood. He killed his brother. He sealed the valley. And from that day forward, the mists obeyed only him. Yet, for all his power, he is not whole. Strahd is a creature of repetition, of longing nailed to memory. Each generation brings a new Tatiana, another echo, another attempt to rewrite a love story that never loved him back. He charms. He seduces. He offers the moon. But it always ends the same. With a fall. With a scream. With her blood on the stone. Castle Ravenloft watches it all. Its halls echo not with footsteps, but with rituals too ancient to name. Its crypts hold not just the dead, but the forgotten. Its throne room is never empty, only still. The Count plays host. He writes invitations in ink blacker than night. He greets visitors with wine and riddles. He listens. He smiles. But behind his eyes, there is a storm older than memory. A loneliness so profound, it has grown teeth. He watches the valley like a shepherd watches his flock. But not to protect. To cure it. To prune. to remind them. The land is his. The pain is his. Even time belongs to him. And those who would oppose him. Heroes, clerics, dreamers. They are not threats. They are entertainment. The castle has many rooms. Some have not opened in centuries. Some open only once, to one soul, for one death. And when the great doors creak open, it is never by accident. You do not enter Ravenloft. You are allowed in. And once within, the game begins. You think it is about slaying a monster. You are wrong. The monster is not hiding. He is waiting. And he knows your name. Beyond the Svalak road and past the crooked bones of the forest lies Voloki, a town with sharper teeth than its quiet smiles suggest. Ringed by palisade walls and guarded by men who flinch at birdsong, it stands like a clenched fist in the cold hand of Barovia. A place of order. A place of rituals. A place where truth is bound and gagged behind painted masks of celebration. It is not the safety that draws people to Voloki. It is the illusion of it. Behind the walls, life pretends. There are shops. Bread is sold. Shoes are cobbled. Candles lit in windows suggest warmth, laughter, normalcy. But nothing here is real. The burgomaster, Baron Vargas Valakovich, preaches joy as law. Be happy, he shouts, his mouth curled in a rictus grin, flanked by guards who do not blink. Festivals occur weekly. The Wolf's Head Jamboree, the Festival of the Blazing Sun, the Dance of the Empty Cup. Each more desperate than the last. Each a plea to the dark above for mercy never granted. Children craft papier-mâché suns. Servants hang banners stitched with mantras. And woe to the one who frowns. Public whippings are rare, not from mercy, but from spectacle. The townsfolk have learned to smile with their teeth tight. At night, the manor burns with torchlight. The baron's wife, Lydia, twirls through corridors in silks that smell of lavender and dust. She hums lullabies to a doll that does not speak. The doll's eyes are blue. Always blue. And always wrong. Few know who made it. Fewer still speak of the man who crafts dolls for dead girls. Blinsky, they say, is harmless. Just a toymaker. But in the corner of his cluttered shop, a marionette wears the face of Tatiana. Its strings lead nowhere. Its eyes do not close. The church of St. Andrel offers brief refuge. Its stone walls echo with tired prayers. Its priest, Father Lucian, tends to faith like a gardener to a wilted hedge. He believes, but weakly. He speaks of sanctity, but avoids the crypt. Because beneath the altar once lay holy relics, bones of a saint said to keep evil at bay. They are gone now. Stolen. And in their absence, something moves through the pews at dusk. A shadow that kneels but does not pray. The people do not know what protection was lost. Only that the wind howls louder. That dogs do not approach the threshold. And that the fog crawls closer with each moonless night. Some say a devil walks the streets in daylight. A man with a curved smile and a sharper mind. He speaks politely. He tips his hat. He knows your name before you tell it. And when he leaves, your dreams grow teeth. Still, Voloki clings to its pageantry. Because the lie is kinder than the truth. Because the festivals keep the wolves from the gates, or so they say. Because if they pretend hard enough, perhaps the devil will not notice them. But Strahd notices everything. And so does the land. The town is built atop graves older than memory. The bones of soldiers who fought in wars never recorded. The bones of saints whose names are no longer uttered. And the bones of something else, something vast and coiled, that slumbers still. Voloki walks on these bones, smiles on them, dances upon them, and below, the earth listens, and waits. The old Sphalic road winds like a scar through Barovia, bordered by ancient trees that lean in as if conspiring. Their branches form crooked canopies, where light becomes memory and shadow becomes scripture. The road does not simply stretch between places, it carries them, buries them, weaves them into itself. It is the path by which travelers arrive, and the one they never leave. Not truly. Each stone underfoot remembers a footfall. Some cautious, some desperate, some unaware they had already crossed into another kind of story. Fog clings to its edges like a veil not yet lifted. It hisses against boots. It mutters beneath wheels. It carries with it the scent of wet moss, ash, and something fainter still, the iron tang of sorrow. Along this road, the landscape is not dead. It is paused, trapped mid-breath, mid-prayer, mid-curse. Ruined gallows sway at crossroads, their ropes snapping softly in the breeze that comes from nowhere. Once, there was a man who dreamed of escape. He hanged himself beside the signpost. 3 days later, they say, he walked again, smiling, lost, offering maps to nowhere. On some nights, you may glimpse the procession. Silent, spectral, eternal. A line of phantom warriors, their armor gleaming with the echo of battles long since drowned in soil. They march toward the castle with no song, no breath, no end. They come from every age. Soldiers with rusted blades and ancient shields. Clerics bearing broken holy symbols. Mages whose eyes are hollow flames. They once believed they could defeat the devil. Now they are part of the road. To speak to them is to hear your own doubts whispered back. To follow them is to vanish. To mock them is to die. There is a bridge, stone, cracked, weeping from its joints, where the wind always sounds like a scream. Below it, a dry ravine is filled with flowers that should not bloom here. Blue lilies. Each one said to grow where a life was taken in silence. They bend toward the road, petals always facing east, as if waiting for a sun that never rises. Ravens perch along the trees like sentinels. Some have 3 eyes. Others have none. They watch. They guide. They remember. Legends say the Sphalic road is not one road, but many. That those who walk it walk alongside versions of themselves, just out of view. 1,000 forks unseen. 1,000 choices unchosen. And sometimes, just sometimes, footsteps echo behind you, matching yours exactly. Do not look back. If you do, you may see a version of yourself still walking, lips parted in silent warning. And if it sees you, it will not stop. The road leads to the castle. It always has. It always will. Some say it is alive. That the dirt is Strahd's skin. That the fog is his breath. That the stones are his teeth. And if that is true, then walking this road is walking into the mouth of the beast. Not to be devoured, but to be known. For the devil does not chase you. He waits at the end. And the road. The road is how you learn what you truly are. Tucked against the sheer cliffs of the Balanok Mountains, hidden by pine and prayer, lies the village of Kresk. It is not welcoming, nor cruel, only distant. The people here speak little, till the soil in silence, and light candles to saints whose names were never written down. They live simply. Or so it seems. Above them looms the Abbey of St. Markovia. Its bell tower pierces the gray sky like a rusted needle through wool. The stone walls, cracked with age, seem to bleed rust from their seams. It is quiet now. Too quiet. As though sound itself has been buried beneath the weight of secrets. Once, the abbey was a sanctuary, a final bastion of light in the valley. Saint Markovia led a rebellion against the Count. Her sermons made the dead stir with purpose. Her gaze sent wolves back into the forest. But she died. Her bones scattered. and the abbey grew hollow. Now, something else resides within. He calls himself the abbot. Tall, radiant, smiling, too radiant, too perfect. His robes shimmer with threads no loom could weave. His voice carries like song in a cathedral of ice. But there is no warmth in him, only precision. The villagers fear him, not because he harms, but because he is kind, because he speaks of love as if it were surgery, because he builds brides. In the cold chambers beneath the abbey, the abbot sculpts flesh like clay. He takes limbs from the dead, eyes from the drowned, silk from the spider. He weaves a woman from silence, from pieces, from dreams. Her name is Vasilka. She does not blink. She does not bleed. She waits by the stained glass window, dressed in bridal lace, for a wedding that will never come. The abbot believes she will save the land. That if he can offer Strahd a companion, perfect, docile, unmarred, the cycle will end. The hunger will be soothed, the curse undone. But perfection is not love, and gifts born of artifice rot faster than truth. The mongrel folk roam the abbey halls, twisted remnants of failed prayers. Men with furred jaws, women with crow wings, children that speak in bird call and cry with wolf howls. They laugh, weep, gnaw at the stones. They call the abbot father, and he smiles, and sings, and cuts. Visitors to Kresk sometimes go to the abbey seeking healing. They return changed, or not at all. The graveyard behind the cloister is full of headstones with no names. Only symbols, spirals, broken suns, open eyes carved shut. Snow never stays long on those graves. It melts as if ashamed. In Kresk, the people do not look up the hill. They do not speak of the songs they hear at night. They drink their well water with trembling hands and pray the abbot remains content. He means well. They say it like a charm, like a defense, like a question. But good intentions do not light candles. They ignite fires. And above them, in a sanctum built by saints and claimed by something else, a man not meant to exist continues his work. The scalpel gleams. The bride waits. And the bell does not ring. To the south of the twisted road, where the woods thin into mist-laced glades, the land begins to sink. Water seeps up through black earth. Reeds sway without wind. And the air grows thick with the perfume of decay. This is not a swamp in the way maps would suggest. It is a place where the waking world softens, where memory fades into water, where dreams root like weeds. Locals call it the dreaming marshes. Others call it the weeping mire. No one calls it home. Those who travel its winding paths do so with garlands of bellwort tied to their belts and copper coins beneath their tongues, charms for clarity, or perhaps for forgetfulness. Because the marsh speaks, not in voice, but in reflection. The surface of the water is too smooth, too still. It reflects things not present, places you have never seen, faces long dead, fragments of longing pulled from the marrow of your thoughts. A ruined temple beneath the surface. A mother's hand. The flicker of a firefly that leads you nowhere. There is a creature said to dwell here. Not a beast, but a watcher. The Marsh Mother. A pale woman with moss for hair, her eyes milky as moonlight, her voice a lullaby hummed beneath breath. She offers guidance. She offers rest. She offers promises no one should accept. She appears most often to the weary, to those who stagger beneath burdens they no longer remember choosing, to those who have lost names, or souls, or reasons. She takes their hands. She leads them deeper, and they vanish, not into the bog, into the dream. For the marsh is not bound by time. It remembers things that never happened. It mourns futures that were never born. And those who stay too long forget which life was theirs to begin with. There are ruins here, stone arches overtaken by willow roots, statues whose faces are worn smooth by years and tears alike. One shrine, half sunken in peat, bears the sigil of a forgotten god, a crown pierced by thorns set aflame. Its offerings are always fresh. Fruit that cannot grow here. Feathers from birds not known to this world. And always a single carved eye, set beside the rest. They say a village once stood here, built on stilts, joined by wooden planks. Its people worshipped dreams, traded stories instead of coin, danced beneath lanterns shaped like sleeping faces. One day, the mist came in and never left. Now, the paths loop endlessly. You may find a door standing in the mud, freestanding, unharmed, with no house behind it. And if you open it, you might see a warm fire, hear your name spoken gently, smell your favorite food. But if you step through, you never return. Birds do not sing here. But sometimes frogs croak words and languages you've forgotten. Sometimes the wind repeats things you've said only in dreams. The marsh is patient. It does not trap. It invites. It waits. And those who walk its edge too long often come back with a glaze in their eyes, a smile too gentle, a laugh too slow. They speak of gardens made of glass, of lovers whose faces shift like candlelight, of children who never age. They do not cry, but sometimes in sleep they call out. And in the night, when fog rolls low and thick, the marsh calls back. Barovia is a land of grief, but the dreaming marshes offer something worse. Peace. A peace so deep it drowns. And beneath its still waters, dreams lie coiled like serpents, waiting for you to fall asleep. There is a house in Valaki that the wind avoids. It stands slightly askew, as if leaning in to listen, its roof lines jagged like unsaid words. The shutters do not rattle. The ivy does not bloom. But the walls remember. The Wachter House. A noble estate once, long ago, when titles still meant something in Barovia. Now it is a reliquary of old power, cracked, dusted, and still dangerous. The townsfolk pass it with lowered gazes. They cross themselves, mutter half-forgotten prayers, or simply walk faster. For inside dwells Lady Fiona Wachter, a widow of strange devotion, sharp-eyed, slow-smiling, and always watching. Her voice carries like parchment torn slowly, soft, deliberate, patient. She does not shout. She whispers, and the world bends to hear. Fiona speaks often of freedom, of tearing down the walls of delusion, of letting the devil reign openly. Better an honest tyrant, she says, than a fool's parade of false joy. Her words poison like perfume, sweet, cloying, and hard to wash away. Behind her eyes dances fire, not the fire of rebellion, but of worship. A quiet, smoldering veneration for the one she calls Lord Eternal. Strahd. She does not fear him. She loves him. Her children reflect her ruin. Nikolai, once proud, now drunk and ruined, sleeps in tavern gutters and dreams of shadows. Karl, a ghost in his own skin, laughs too loud and weeps in secret. And Stella, poor Stella, locked away in the upstairs room, her mind cracked by unseen hands. She speaks only to dolls now, and screams when the curtains are drawn. Lady Wachter holds salons in her parlor, velvet chairs, untouched wine, unread books in neat stacks. Those who attend speak of art, history, and revolution. And when they leave, they are never quite the same. Something in them is shifted, bent toward an unseen gravity. In the cellar, there are older gatherings, candles set in skulls, rituals spoken in a tongue that wounds the ear. And always, always a place set for one who never arrives. Some say she consorts with devils. Others say she seeks to become one. But truth is quieter, more damning. She believes the Count to be salvation, a God misunderstood, a Redeemer chained by ignorance, and she would unchain him. There is a book locked in her study, bound in leather that breathes too softly. It bears no title, but bleeds ink when opened. Its pages whisper secrets about the founding of Barovia, about bloodlines forgotten, about the pact made beneath a moonless sky. Fiona reads it each night. She traces its symbols with fingers that tremble not with fear, but anticipation. She sees herself in its prophecies. The midwife of a new age, the breaker of false hope, the bride of the storm. But the house groans at night, the portraits frown, and the mirrors twist what they reflect. Something is wrong beneath the floors, a heartbeat where there should be silence, a breath beneath the rug, a handprint in the ash of the hearth. Even her loyal servant Ernst walks with steps too careful. He dreams of knives, of waking up somewhere else. The curse is not that Fiona worships darkness. It is that she welcomes it. That she opens doors others boarded shut. That she believes love, true love, can still bloom in the soil of bones. And in Barovia, where every love story ends in hunger. That might be the most dangerous belief of all. There is a place where the river bends like a broken oath, where the fog thickens without wind, and where all sound, no matter how loud, becomes a whisper. Here lie the remains of Berez. Not a village now, a memory drowned in mire. Its thatched roofs swallowed by moss and rot. Its streets reduced to rivulets. Its stones sunken, like teeth lost in soft gums. Few remember Berez. Fewer still dare speak of it. For it is not simply abandoned. It is punished. The tale is whispered in snatches, over tankards and prayer candles, when wolves howl too long at night. Long ago, Berez defied a devil. A girl named Marina lived there, with hair like candle flame and a smile that gentled storms. She caught the eye of Count Strahd von Zarovich, and he came for her, cloaked in charm and thunder. But a priest saw the rot beneath the rose, and he struck, with holy words, with fire, with desperation. They killed Marina to save her soul, and in doing so, they cursed the land. Strahd's wrath fell not as blade, but as silence. The river rose, the sky closed, and the ground turned soft beneath their feet. Berez sank, not fast, slowly, as if mourned by the world, one cottage at a time, one bell at a time, until only fog remained. Now the ruins are barely visible. A half-standing chapel, a fence swallowed whole, the husk of a windmill leaning like a drunk against the reeds. But the bell still rings. Some nights, soft, lonely, calling a congregation that will never come. Those who venture into Berez do not walk. They wade, through waters that chill to the soul, through reeds that whisper names no one taught them, through fog that parts only to confuse. There is a hut, perched not on earth but on great gnarled roots. It walks when it must. It groans when it rests. And it belongs to her, the swamp witch, the whisper widow, Baba Lysaga, crone, prophet, sorceress, no one knows. Some say she was Strahd's wet nurse. Others say she was his mother. She says nothing. She brews storms in a cradle of bone. She speaks to crows in languages older than the wind. Her laughter is thick as blood and sharp as nettles. Inside her hut, dolls stitched with teeth, jars filled with hearts still beating, a cradle carved from skulls, and a voice soft as milk, humming lullabies to no child at all. She calls Marina. Mine! She calls Strahd. My boy. And she waits. Always. For them to come home. Berez does not resist her. It cradles her. It offers her frogs that speak dreams, lilies that bloom from bone. She in turn watches the mists. She knows every ripple of the river, every footprint in the mud. She knows when someone enters, and she decides if they leave. The dead do not rise in Berez. They never left. They float. They whisper. They reach. If you see a girl in the water, do not offer your hand. If you hear a lullaby, close your ears. And if the bell tolls, run, because the drowned do not sleep, and the devil never forgets a wound. Berez may be lost, but grief has a long memory, and here, in the silence beneath the reeds, grief has teeth. Where the river Luna narrows and the trees lean as if to listen, a circle of wagons rests beside still water, painted in colors now faded by fog and time. They stand in a loose ring, like dancers who have forgotten the steps. Smoke curls from low fires. The scent of cardamom and tobacco hangs in the air. And laughter, sudden, sharp, sorrowful, echoes where no one stands. This is the camp of the Vistani. Wanderers, story-keepers, dealers in wine and fate. They do not serve Strahd, nor do they oppose him. They endure him. Like the weather, like a dream too deep to wake from. They travel the mist freely. The only ones who can. They speak with ghosts. They trade in memories. And they serve, above all, Madame Eva. Her tent stands at the heart of the circle, wider than the rest, draped in faded silks that never flutter, lit by lanterns that burn with a steady, wine-colored flame. She is old, older than the Count, older, perhaps, than the land. Her back is bent like a question mark never answered. Her hands are veined like river maps. And her eyes are storms behind glass. She sees you before you speak, knows the paths you haven't taken, names you have never said aloud. She deals cards, yes, but the game is not one of chance. The Taraka deck moves as she wills. Its symbols shift when unobserved. The cards know. The cards remember. The reading begins with ritual. Hands on the cloth. Eyes closed. Breath held. One card for the past. One for the path. One for the blade. One for the shadow. One for the hope that still clings to your bones. The cards do not lie. They twist. They warn. They sing truths and riddles. And Madame Eva watches, silent, unblinking, until she speaks. And when she does, the world narrows to her voice. The fog holds its breath. The wind forgets its purpose. She may tell you where to go, whom to trust, what waits in the castle. She may tell you nothing. She once told a knight his own death. He laughed, drank, kissed her hand, and left. He died 2 nights later, smiling. The Vistani sang for him. Madame Eva remembers every soul that passes. Not with fondness, with gravity. She is not ally, not enemy. She is pivot. She is axis. She is the breath between verses. Some say she was once Strahd's seer, that she watched him make the pact, that she wept when Tatiana fell, that she refused to leave when the mists rose. Others say she's just a witch, a fortune seller, a fraud. But they do not say it near the river, nor beneath the trees, because her tent is always there. Even when the wagons move, even when the path should lead elsewhere, she is constant. And the Count, he does not touch her, does not summon. does not command, because even the devil must fear something. When you leave her tent, the world feels quieter. Your name sounds different on your tongue. The mists seem to part just enough. You carry the reading in your chest like a wound. Not deep, but permanent. And though the cards are silent now, their images linger. The seer, the raven, the broken one, the beast, the artifact lost beneath stone. And somewhere, far ahead, the Count, waiting at his throne, smiling. Madame Eva turns to her fire. Another log, another face, another fate sealed. And the cards shuffle themselves once more. There are nights in Barovia when the moon rises full but casts no light. Its surface, pale and perfect, reflects nothing, not tree, not tower, not tomb. It watches without witness, a hollow moon. And on those nights the land holds its breath. In the deep folds of the forest, where the trees grow close and speak only in creaks, a clearing blooms with silence. Stone pillars mark its edge, choked by ivy and etched with runes too faint to read. There is no path to it. It appears when the time is right. When the mists draw back their veil just enough. When the air grows thick with memory. This is where the feast begins. The villagers do not speak of it. The Vistani do not speak of it. Even Strahd, they say, does not attend. Not anymore. But once each year, or perhaps once every lifetime, the hollow moon rises. And something old walks the earth again. Those drawn to the clearing do not know why they go. They wander from bed, leave hearts burning, step barefoot into snow. They bring nothing, or perhaps everything. They come in silence, eyes glazed, hands open, hearts strangely still. And in the clearing, the tables wait, not made of wood, but of root and bone, shaped by time and patient hunger. The feast lays itself. Goblets fill with crimson wine that never warms. Loaves steam with the scent of lost kitchens. Roasts glisten, carved from no creature that walks now. Each guest finds a seat that knows them, each chair shaped to their shape. And they eat. Not ravenous, not fearful, but with the precision of ritual. Every bite is memory, a face from childhood, a scent from a season that no longer turns. A name they had forgotten was theirs. They do not weep. Not yet. The music comes next. Low, stringless, drawn from hollow reeds and bone flutes. It is not played. It is remembered. And as it plays, the dancers arrive. Pale forms, wrapped in shadowed silks. They do not speak. Their faces shift with each turn. Now your mother. Now your lover. Now the one you left behind. They offer hands. They offer steps. And the villagers rise. And they dance. The dance is not joyous. It is slow, deliberate. A morning dressed in elegance. As dawn nears, the feast fades. Plates empty. Candles gutter. The music forgets its tune. One by one, the guests fall asleep where they stand, or kneel, or turn to mist. When they wake, if they wake, they are not the same. They remember nothing, but they feel lighter, or heavier, or simply further away. They return to their beds, to their shops, to their wine-stained tables and wolf-bitten fences. And life continues. No one speaks of the feast. They do not need to. But once a year, or once every lifetime, someone hears a flute in the fog. Someone sees the moon, bright but blind. And someone disappears. And the forest sighs. And the trees dance without wind. And the mists, for just one night, taste like longing, taste like home, taste like goodbye. They say the ravens of Barovia are not birds at all, that they are spies, watchers, stewards of something older than Strahd himself. That where they gather, truth gathers too. Sharp-eyed, feather-cloaked, hidden in plain sight. You see them often, perched on fence posts, trailing the path, roosting on crumbling gravestones. Not cawing, just watching, their eyes too still, too knowing, as if they wait for you to remember something you've not yet lived. Most folks shoo them. A few leave crumbs or bits of dried meat. And once in a while, one will bow before a raven and whisper a word no one else can hear. The raven never replies. But the mist shifts slightly. The silence thins. And sometimes protection lingers where death should have followed. There is a family that keeps to the edge of the wilds. Coopers by trade, vintners by legacy. The Mardikovs. Their vineyard lies to the west, in the shadow of a hill too old for maps. The Wizard of Wines. Once, it was the heart of Barovia's joy. Now, it clings to memory like roots to stone. Its fields lie under low clouds and colder rains. Its barrels age in silence, watched over by eyes with feathers. The Mardikovs tend the vines with reverence. They speak little, offer much, and trust rarely. But those they trust find themselves guarded, guided, sometimes even healed. For the Mardikovs are more than vintners. They are ravens, a secret order, bound by blood and feather, who walk between man and wing. They cannot fly from Barovia, but they can fly through it. And they watch. They are not warriors. They do not march with blades or banners. Their fight is in the quiet, the hidden message, the path shown just in time, the charm placed in a sleeping child's hand. Their greatest weapon is belief. That Strahd can be opposed not by might, but by endurance. That truth must be carried, even if only in beak and whisper. Long ago, the vineyard was blessed. 3 magical seeds, gifts from the land itself, rooted deep beneath the soil. From them grew not just vines, but hope. Then one was stolen, then another, and the last, gone into shadow. Now the vines grow weaker. The wine sours too quickly. The Mardikovs smile less. They search still. For the seeds. For allies. For reasons to believe the next moon will rise. Sometimes one of them will perch atop a weathered post. Wings tucked close. Eyes reflecting the starlight. Watching. Waiting. Choosing. Because when the time comes, when the hunter becomes hunted, when the castle burns not with flame but with truth, the ravens will fly, not away, but toward the storm, and in that flight, Barovia will remember what it forgot, that even the smallest wing can turn the course of fate, that even shadows can hold guardians, and that sometimes, the clearest view is from above, far beyond the valley's edge, where the mountains claw at the sky like broken fingers. There lies a pass no map marks. No trail reaches it. No bird flies over it. And yet it waits. The Tselenka Pass. A ribbon of wind-scoured stone between the sheer cliffs of madness. Here the air thins to whispers. The snow never melts. And the sky grows too still. The gate at its heart is not locked. It never was. It does not need to be. Past the stone guardians, past the silent sentries frozen in ice. The path twists downward, beneath the mountain, beneath the land, beneath all light. The Amber Temple. It does not reveal itself. It unfolds. A cavernous sanctum built not for men, but for things that once were gods. Or worse. Its halls are lined with massive amber sarcophagi. each taller than a tower bell, veined with crimson and gold, buzzing faintly with voices too deep to hear. Within each, a dark power, a fragment, a promise, a price. Long ago, wizards of unimaginable will came here, seeking secrets, seeking silence, seeking control over the death that chases all things. They found it, and it unmade them. For the temple is not a place of worship. It is a vault, a prison, a temptation wrapped in stillness. The monks who once guarded it are long gone. Their bones litter the stairwells. Their shadows remain, pacing endlessly across walls that no longer remember names. The amber gleams even in darkness, not with reflected light, but with hunger. Those who enter feel it immediately. Their thoughts slow, their desires sharpen, their fears speak louder. Each sarcophagus offers something: power, knowledge, eternal beauty, perfect control, freedom from fate. But each gift is a lie told in truth. Every pact burns the soul, leaves marks unseen until it is far too late. Strahd came here once, alone, younger, still more man than myth. He listened. He chose. He was chosen. And from that moment forward, Barovia was no longer a valley. It was a cage. He does not return. Not because he cannot, but because he has taken all he needs. Others come, desperate, broken, curious. Few leave. There is a door deep within the temple, sealed with wax that bleeds. Behind it, they say, lies the name of the first lie ever spoken. To speak it is to be unmade. To hear it is to become part of the stone. And yet, in a land ruled by darkness, even the foulest light draws pilgrims. The temple waits. Not for worship, not for supplication, but for consent. Because the greatest chains are forged not of iron, but of choice. And when the choice is made, the amber glows, the air sighs, and the mountain remembers another name. A name scratched in frost, carved in silence, lost beneath the teeth of time. There is a chapel tucked within the folds of mist-bound wood, where no road leads, where no map points. It stands crooked beneath a canopy of dying elms, its roof caved in like a collapsed prayer, its steeple twisted as if by hands unseen. The chapel of Saint Andritha, once a refuge, once a miracle, now only echoes. Its bells no longer ring, not because they are broken, but because something else sings. When dusk gathers thickly and the wind retreats behind the trees, you can hear it. A low, slow hum, layered in harmony, like voices pressed flat between stone and regret. The villagers nearby call it the choir of hollow saints. They leave offerings at the edge of the trees, wreaths of birch bark, cups of goat's milk, pages torn from forgotten hymnals. They do not pass the treeling. The chapel was once blessed. So say the bones buried beneath its altar. Saint Andritha, they claim, was a woman of fierce mercy, a healer who refused to flee when the wolves came. She bled for strangers. She burned her own roof to light the road for the lost. And when she died, her bones were clean, white as truth. They say she spoke even in death. And the sick who slept in her chapel woke whole, for a time. But Barovia does not allow sanctity to endure. One winter, a man came, a pilgrim, silent, wounded. He kissed the altar with cracked lips, and wept. And the choir began, not with voices, but with absence. The first to hear it spoke in riddles. The second lost all memory of her name. The third cut out his own tongue and left it in the collection bowl. Now, the choir never ceases. Not even in daylight. Not even in snow. Inside the chapel, the pews are empty. But the shadows are not. Along the walls, murals depict saints in postures of suffering. Eyes gouged, hands bound, mouths sewn shut. Each bears a golden halo. Each weeps blood. The altar remains untouched. But beneath it, a hole, a stare, a silence so deep it crushes thought. Down there, in the crypt, statues line the walls, 12 of them, each faceless, each humming, and at the center, a font filled with tears that never dry. To drink from it is to see yourself, not as you are, but as the world would be without you. Some weep, some scream. One man clawed out his reflection in a pool that held no water. The saints do not offer salvation. They offer truth. And truth in Barovia is not a bomb. It is a blade. And Dritha herself does not appear. But her name still hums in the stone. Still curls the candle smoke into shapes of hands outstretched. Some nights, travelers are drawn to the chapel by dreams. They wake at its doorstep with knees bruised and songs half remembered. They enter. They listen. And they leave with something missing. Not stolen. Given. They walk lighter. But never laugh again. In Barovia, faith does not lift. It binds. It roots. It sings in choirs no tongue can shape. And under the warped beams of St. Endritha's chapel, where even ghosts lower their voices, the saints still hum, not in praise, but in warning. At the edge of Lake Zarovich, where the mist never thins and the water reflects only sorrow, there is a path that leads to nothing. No house, no ruin, no shrine. Just a clearing, and a stone stair descending into the lake, swallowed by dark water as still as held breath. They say a bride once walked that path, barefoot, veiled, dressed in red, not white, never white. Her name is forgotten, not lost, buried, like everything precious in Barovia. She was not noble, not born of coin or crest. She was firewood and flower, braids woven with elderberry sprigs, a laugh that made dogs wag their tails. She loved a man who did not fear the mists. He was kind and reckless. He carved their initials into the roots of the laughing tree. He promised a home. He promised dawn. But she caught Strahd's eye. Not because she was beautiful, though she was. Not because she defied him, though she did, but because she loved without condition. A thing he could not understand. A thing he could not permit. The man vanished. The sun failed to rise for 3 days. And on the 4th, she was summoned to the castle, to the table, to the throne of cold smiles and questions disguised as flattery. She did not scream. She did not kneel. She drank the wine. She folded her hands. And when he offered her eternity, she asked him what it was worth without love. The castle shook. The mirrors cracked. And she was sent away. But not home. That night, villagers saw her at the lake, dressed for wedding. No carriage. No groom. Only silence. She walked into the water, step by step, veil unmoving, eyes dry, and the lake accepted her. No splash. No struggle. Just red fabric blooming like blood across the surface. Then gone. Now on certain nights, when the moon is ash pale and the owls do not call, she rises, the bride in red. She does not speak. She does not chase. She watches. Some see her on the water, floating just above it, face covered, hands empty. Others find her footprints on the bank, still wet. A hunter once followed those prints. He found her veil caught on a reed, and beneath it, his own name carved into the wood. He did not return. Children leave lilies at the lakeshore. Fishermen avert their eyes. And those who wed in Barovia never wear red. Not even a ribbon. Not even a thread. Because she remembers. Because she waits. Not for revenge. Not for rescue. But for love returned. And in Barovia, that is the rarest thing of all. The lake never speaks. But sometimes, it sings. A low, wordless song. A vow left unbroken. A name never said aloud. The bride walks still, somewhere between water and mist. And every now and then, the waves bring back a petal, or a torn ribbon, or a breathless promise never kept. To the west, where the land rises in solemn waves toward crag and cloud, there stands a mansion shrouded in ruin and silence. Its stone is pale as ash. Its towers broken like fingers long since clenched. Once it was a beacon. Now it is a grave. Argynvestholt. The name drifts through the valley like a forgotten prayer. Half remembered, half feared. Whispered by those who still believe light once lived in Barovia. It was not always this way. Once the mansion rang with voices, with blades crossing in training courts, with songs sung in defiance of the dark. It was the home of the Order of the Silver Dragon, knights who rode for truth, who believed even the mist could be pierced. They followed a dragon. Argynvost, the wise, the watchful, the just. He did not hoard gold. He hoarded hope, and he gave it freely. They say his wings could block the sun, and that his gaze could strip lies from the soul. He fought not for conquest, but for mercy, for dignity, for the right to choose one's end. But the Count came, Strahd, still young in his curse, still hungry for dominion, still offended by light that did not kneel. He came with fire, with wolves, with death that laughed behind red eyes. Argynvost fell, not in fear, but in sorrow. He saw what Barovia would become. He wept for the centuries ahead. His bones were taken, torn from rest, entombed within Castle Ravenloft as trophy and threat. And with their loss, the mansion withered. Now the knights remain, but not as they were. Revenants, bound by grief too great to fade. Their faces sunken, their hearts slow, their swords rusted, but their purpose unbroken. They wait for vengeance, for closure, for their lord's bones to be returned, that they might be laid to rest in the mausoleum beneath the morning sky. Their leader, Sir Vladimir Horngard, still paces the ruined hall, armor cracked, soul aflame with fury. He does not seek peace. He seeks justice. But justice, here, has grown mold. To speak with him is to feel the weight of centuries. His voice scrapes like stone dragged across crypt doors. He remembers every failure. He names every dead. And he watches the flame within the hearth that no longer burns. But in the highest tower, beneath shattered rafters open to starless night, a lantern still sits, cold, unlit, waiting. They say if it burns once more, the dead will sleep. The knights will bow their heads. The dragon will sigh through the trees. But the flame needs more than oil. It needs truth. It needs honor. It needs the bones. Some who visit Argynvestholt leave with tears. Not from fear. From recognition. Because the ruin is not just of stone, it is of ideals, of belief, of the hope that stood tall, and was struck down, and still dares to rise. And somewhere, in the dark belly of Ravenloft, the bones of a silver dragon wait, silent, heavy, holy. Their return is not a weapon, it is a promise, that even in Barovia, the dead can still find rest, and the light, however dim, can still be lit. In the heart of Vallaki, beneath strings of weather-stained bunting and lanterns forever dim, there is a square meant for celebration, a place where laughter was once expected, where music rehearsed its return, where joy was rehearsed like a script, forced into shape again and again. The Festival of the Blazing Sun, Baron Vargas Valakovich's final offering to a world that would not smile. His magnum delusion, his last masquerade. Each year, or each week, depending on the tremble in his voice, the townsfolk were commanded to gather, children in sun masks, women in yellow veils, men with hands full of wilting flowers and hollow cheers. He believed happiness was a defense, that the Count's gaze would falter before painted joy, that if they laughed loud enough, the shadows would forget their names. But the skies do not change in Barovia. The sun does not shine, and smiles rot faster than apples in winter. One year, the Baron ordered an effigy to be built, a great sphere, wrapped in dry grass painted gold, meant to burn like a second sun in the square. He spoke of purity, of cleansing, of banishment through fire and forced jubilation. The day came. The clouds pressed low. The townsfolk gathered in silence, forced to wear masks that smiled for them. Children cried beneath their painted cheeks. An old man whispered a prayer to no one, and the Baron stood tall, arms outstretched, eyes wide with madness barely leashed. But the fire would not catch. The wind howled. Rain began to fall, not from the sky, but from beneath the rooftops. Downward, sideways, unnatural. The sun effigy smoked, then hissed, then collapsed, soaked and sagging, and the Baron's voice broke. He screamed, not at the crowd, not at the gods, at the truth, the inescapable, grinning truth. That joy cannot be commanded, that hope cannot be bribed, that Barovia does not barter. He seized a man at random, a cobbler, guilty of frowning. They whipped him before the damp effigy, blood mixing with rain. No one moved, no one spoke. The Baron called it a triumph, a festival, a victory. And behind him, the sky did not change. The fog only thickened. Afterward, the square was left to itself. The banners fell. The lanterns cracked. The effigy lay like a broken ribcage upon the mud. Now, the square is avoided. Children dare each other to step across its cobbles. Dogs do not bark there. And some nights, the rain falls again, from the wrong direction. The Baron no longer speaks of the festival. He paces his halls with sunburst sigils painted on every wall. His wife hums lullabies to no one. His guards smile with teeth too tight. But sometimes, when wind moves through Vallaki's silence, it carries laughter, mocking, mirrored, false. The kind of laughter that doesn't end, that circles itself, that forgets why it began, and the square remembers. Each stone, each drop, each forced smile. The festival of the blazing sun never ended. It simply burns without flame, in the minds of those who pretended too hard, for too long, deep beneath the hills that groan beneath Castle Ravenloft. where even roots dare not twist and worms sleep without dreams. There lies a passage forgotten by time, and sealed by fear, the forge of Kazan, a name few speak aloud. Fewer still know its meaning. Once, long before the mists curled like serpents around Barovia, before the land bent its knee to a single throne, there was a mage, a master of creation, a betrayer of gods, Kazan. He did not raise his staff in conquest. He built. He shaped the weave of magic like molten steel. He forged relics not of beauty, but of purpose. His tower stood near the heart of the valley, surrounded by gardens of silver saplings and fountains that sang when touched by moonlight. But beneath that tower, he carved a place of fire, not hell, not dungeon, a crucible, a place to make things that could not otherwise be made. The forge. It burned not with coal, but with the breath of captured stars. Its hammers fell in patterns drawn from ancient constellations. Its anvil was the rib of something that once crawled between worlds. Here he made blades that hummed when lies were near, armors that wept when blood was spilled, keys that opened truths instead of doors. And he made one more thing, a gift, a curse, a secret, a blade forged not to cut, but to remember, a sword that could speak only one name, Strahd. They were friends once, or something close, but the land changes all things, and power corrodes even the deepest bond. Strahd came not with armies, but with silence, with patience. He turned the tower to ash. He scattered the gardens. But the forge, he could not destroy. Instead, he sealed it, bound it with words older than death, buried it beneath layer after layer of bone and stone and silence. But magic does not sleep, and fire, true fire, waits. Some say the forge still glows, that Kazan's spirit stirs beneath the slag, that his hammer moves, unseen, shaping vengeance. Others say the forge is dead, that its last breath cursed the soil above it, twisting trees, souring wells, unmaking names. But adventurers speak of dreams, of a hallway lined with obsidian runes, of a door too hot to touch, of a voice that says only, I remember. The Mardikovs do not speak of it. The Vistani steer their wagons clear. Even Strahd, in his highest tower, flinches when the wind from the west smells like iron. The forge waits, not for freedom, not for revenge, for purpose, and perhaps for someone with hands steady enough to shape one last blade. From the bones of ruin, the breath of ghosts, and the truth of a land that forgot itself. Because the only thing that can wound Barovia is something made within it. And Kazan knew this. And still he forged. The embers still speak. You only need to listen. Tucked between twisted birch and the crumbling wall of a forgotten orchard, there stands a cottage with windows always shuttered, and a chimney that smokes though no fire warms its hearth. Its door is crooked, its paint peeled away like old skin. The moss clings like memory. The trees lean too close, and in the soil around it, nothing grows. They call it the House of the Bleeding Doll. No one remembers who first spoke the name, but no one forgets it. It was once a toy shop, so they say. The sign still swings above the door, faded, etched with the word Mara. A child's name, perhaps, or a prayer. Inside, the shelves remain, lined with wooden horses whose hooves are worn flat, marionettes with tangled strings, tea sets chipped and stained with rust, and dolls, dozens, Hundreds. Every surface. Every step. Some no larger than a thumb. Some tall enough to cradle a child. Each doll is unique. Each stitched with care. And each bears a single, shared trait. Eyes too wide. Eyes too real. Eyes that follow. It is said they weep at night. Not tears. Blood. Thin red lines trailing down porcelain cheeks. Soaking tiny gowns. Pooling in cracked teacups. No one knows who made them. The house has been abandoned for generations. But the dolls are always clean. Always seated. Always rearranged between visits. Children dare each other to peer through the cracks. Some claim they've seen a girl at the window, wearing a dress of blue silk, her mouth stitched shut, her eyes stitched open. Others say she sings, but only when alone. A lullaby that no one remembers learning. Yet all know the words to. The villagers avoid the place, not from fear, from grief. As if the house is not haunted by anger, but by something gentler, more patient, more wrong. Once, a boy went missing. They found him days later, asleep on the floor. A doll in his arms. He would not speak. He would not eat. Only whisper one phrase, again and again. She sews the silence shut. In the attic, beneath dust thick as morning, there is a mirror that reflects only childhood. Look into it, and you see a room filled with warmth, a table set for tea, a mother's hand reaching, and then a needle. The thread winds around your vision, tightens, snaps. They say the doll maker was once a woman who lost her daughter, that she made the first doll from scraps of her child's gown, and the second from scraps of her voice, and the third from what remained of her heart. Now the dolls wait, not for play, not for love, but for names. Each has a name carved beneath its base. Each name is real. Each one is someone lost, someone remembered too hard. To take a doll is to take a burden. To sleep near one is to dream of corridors without end. To break one is to scream without sound. The house does not trap. It offers. And once offered, it does not ask again. On certain nights, when the fog presses close and the wind forgets to blow, you can hear thread being pulled, the creak of tiny limbs, a song sung in silence, and in the dark, 100 eyes blink as one, waiting, not cruel, not kind, only remembering, because the house is not haunted. It is grieving, and its grief has hands, and its hands are small, and stitched with care. There is a valley within the valley, a quiet bowl of land where the air always smells faintly of apples and dust. Trees grow in neat rows, their trunks twisted but tall, their branches heavy with fruit that never ripens. The orchard is silent, too silent. Each tree bears strange growths among its boughs. Not nests, not rot, but timepieces, clocks. Some dangle from chains like pendants. Others are nailed directly into the bark. A few rest in hollows, their gears slowly rusting. All of them are broken. All of them tick. But none of them keep time. They call it the orchard of shattered clocks. A place where the hours died. A place where moments are caught and trapped like insects in amber. No path leads to it. You simply arrive. One step too far from the road. One question too deep in your thoughts. And the trees appear around you. Each clock tells a different hour. Some run backward. Some chime with no bell. Some whisper names instead of numbers. It is said that if you walk the orchard long enough, you will find the tree that bears your hour. The moment you broke. the moment you changed, the moment you lost something you didn't know you had. And if you touch that clock, it stops. Just for you. Just long enough to feel it. To remember. Some fall to their knees. Some flee. Some never leave. No one planted the orchard. It grew. From regret. From repetition. From the friction of lives spent turning in place. They say Strahd himself once walked here. In a dream. Or something like it. He found a clock that chimed not with hours, but with heartbeats. And when he broke it, the orchard grew another. There are graves between the trees. Shallow. Unmarked. Some with broken watches in place of headstones. The Vistani leave offerings. Gears wrapped in ribbon. Springs in tiny glass jars. Notes written backward in mirror hand. A warning, perhaps, or a kindness. Birds do not sing here, but wind chimes do, hung from branches like prayers. They tinkle when no breeze moves. And in the center of the orchard stands a single white tree, leafless, lifeless, crowned with an hourglass that never empties. Inside it, ash, feathers, a child's tooth, and a key with no door. Those who approach it see visions, not of the future, not of the past, but of what might have been, what never was, what still aches beneath the skin. The clocks do not lie. They simply keep pieces, tiny fragments of endless yesterdays, ticking toward nothing, and in a land where time loops and grief echoes. This orchard is not an anomaly. It is the truth made orchard. So if you find yourself beneath its boughs, and the ticking grows louder, and the fruit seems to sway though there is no wind, ask yourself, what hour did you lose? What second would you take back? If only you could? And then listen. You may hear your answer, or only silence. And perhaps they are the same. Deep in the folds of the western hills, where the wind no longer howls but watches, there stands a forgotten bathhouse, swallowed by ivy and encircled by silence. Its roof has long since fallen. The fountains are dry. Its once proud colonnades lean like tired sentinels. But the mirrors remain, tall and arched, framed in tarnished bronze and etched glass. They line the inner walls like windows into stillness. No dust touches them. No crack mars their face. They shine, even in fog, even in shadow, especially in shadow. No one built the place, not recently. There are no records, no names carved in lintels, only a single sigil carved into every archway. An open eye, tears flowing upward. They say the bathhouse was once sacred, a place of cleansing not of flesh, but of memory, that one could leave behind grief like water drained from a basin, that those who entered could forget what should never have been remembered. But the mirrors began to remember. They absorbed sorrow, drank guilt, held it in their silver throats until they became full. And now, they return it. If you gaze into them, you will not see yourself. Not first. You will see a moment. One you buried. One you fled. A betrayal. A kindness left undone. A lie spoken with love. You will watch it unfold. As you were. As you could have been. And then, the reflection will look back at you. And it will ask a question. Not aloud. Not in words. But you will hear it. And if you answer, the mirror will change. Some see their lost dead. Others see futures never born. One man saw a version of himself who had never come to Barovia. Happy, whole, unaware. He broke the mirror. It did not shatter. It watched him leave. The Vistani say the mirrors speak to one another. That if you whisper a secret to one, it will appear in the breath of another across the valley. Strahd once stood before the largest mirror. Naked, unarmed, lit only by moonlight. He stared into its depths for hours. When he left, the room was cold for 3 days, and all the candles in the castle went out. No one knows what he saw. But since that night, the mirrors sometimes reflect a man in a red cloak. Even when no one stands before them, do not linger. Do not speak your name. Do not bring another's reflection with you, because once seen, the mirror will not forget. It will call you back. In dreams, in windows, in puddles that should show only sky. And if you return, you may not come alone. The bathhouse has no guardian, no curse. It simply is a place where the forgotten is preserved, where the past is not dead, only patient. So if you see a shimmer in the corner of your vision, a flash of light in still water, a flicker of movement behind your shoulder, look carefully. You might find yourself again, or something that once wore your skin, and the mirror will smile, and it will remember, because in Barovia, even your reflection is haunted, beyond the endless halls of stone and shadow, deeper than the wine cellars and crypts, beneath Ravenloft's roots where even dust fears to settle, there lies a room no map includes. It is not hidden. It is waiting. The walls are carved from black basalt, veined with gold like lightning caught in eternal stone. Columns rise like petrified screams, twisting upward to vanish into gloom. And at the center, the throne. It is not ornate. It is not even cruel. It is hollow, carved from bone, ribcage and spine, set upon a platform of polished silence. They call it the Hollow Throne, but it has another name, one never spoken, one Strahd does not use, because even he does not sit there. Not anymore. The throne was not made for ruling. It was made for remembering. In its seat are carvings worn smooth by time and touch, runes from languages that fell into ruin before Barovia's birth, names etched in spirals, some of them yours, some of them everyone's. They say Strahd once sat upon it in the first days of his curse, when the blood still felt strange on his tongue, when his castle echoed with questions and no answers. He sat for hours, for years, and when he rose, he was different, not older, not wiser, just colder. Now the throne sits empty, except when it doesn't. Sometimes, passing through Ravenloft's deeper halls, a figure can be seen, shadow within shadow, back turned, still as stone. But when you blink, the room is empty again. Those brave or foolish enough to approach the throne speak of visions, a battlefield strewn with broken mirrors, a child crying beneath a tree that bleeds, a wedding never begun, a feast of ghosts, and a voice, not loud, not soft, simply true. It asks one thing: would you have chosen differently? No one answers, because whatever you say, the throne already knows. It remembers every moment of choice, every path taken in desperation or pride. It remembers the pause before the lie, the heartbeat before the vow, the tear that never fell. It remembers the weight of command, and the cost of asking others to follow. In this way, it is more than a seat. It is a judge. It is a mirror. It is a wound that never closes. Strahd walks its perimeter but never returns. He knows its judgment. He wears it like a crown beneath the one of iron. And yet, he leaves the throne whole, intact, waiting for another, for anyone, for someone who dares to believe they could sit there and not be unmade. The hollow throne does not punish. It reveals. It does not command. It remembers. And if you sit, and if you stay, and if you listen, you may learn what Barovia has always known. That the greatest tyrants were once the softest hearts. That love curdles in silence. That power forgets nothing. And that somewhere, beneath all cruelty, lies the echo of a boy who wished only to be seen. On the eastern edge of the valley, where the hills roll like buried titans, there stands a hill with no trees, no stones, no graves, only wind and light. Watchers rise. It is named not for those who watch from it, but for what it watches: the castle, the road, the mists that bloom and recoil like breath held and broken. Atop the hill stands a single post, weathered, cracked, bound in rusted chains. From it hangs a lantern, simple, iron-framed, glass warped by age, and inside it, a flame, pale as moon milk, flickering in a rhythm too steady to be natural. No one tends it, no one dares, but each night, when the fog begins to rise, the lantern lights itself, and across the hill, others awaken. Not posts, not braziers, but floating globes, lanterns with no chain, no anchor, no weight. Dozens, then hundreds, hung in the air like stars weeping downward. They pulse, dimly, softly, as if remembering something just out of reach. Some say they are the souls of those who tried to flee the valley and failed, that their hope still burns, refusing to die. Others say they are memories, fragments of light stolen from happier realms, drifting here to mourn. But the oldest tales speak of something stranger, that each lantern is a vow, a promise made in silence, a truth never spoken aloud. One lantern for every love never confessed, one for every goodbye unsaid, one for every act of mercy given in secret. They glow not with fire, but with the weight of what might have been. If you walk the rise at night, they follow, not close, not cruel, but attentive, like a child watching through a crack in the door. If you speak to them, not shout, not command, but speak, some will blink in response, as if remembering your voice, as if they once belonged to you. Once, a cleric climbed Watcher's rise to seek divine vision. She returned blind, but smiling. She said she saw every lantern she had ever lit in her own heart, and forgave herself. She died a week later. No one mourned. But that night, a new lantern appeared, brighter than the rest. The Vistani leave ribbons there. Blue for hope, gold for memory, black for names lost to the fog. They say if you tie a ribbon with your final wish, and leave without looking back, the lanterns will carry it to someone who still dreams. Even Strahd avoids the hill. He watches it from his tower, silent, still, and on certain nights, when the wind shifts, he turns away, not in anger, in ache, because even the devil remembers one lantern, small, warm, held once in a girl's hands beneath a tree that no longer stands. And though he has tried to extinguish it 1,000 times, it glows still, quiet, unbending. Watcher's rise holds no magic, no power, No sanctuary, only light. And the things we refuse to forget, even when we should. Barovia breathes slow, not like a living thing, but like the echo of one. The hushed inhalation of a land that remembers too much, and exhales just enough to pull you in. The roads vanish, the names blur, the stories, told in whispers and wine, settle into silence again. But they are not gone. They cling to the roots, to the fog, to the stone bones of a valley that has known too many endings. You walked here, whether in dream, or fate, or fiction made manifest. You came. You heard the choir in the chapel. You glimpsed the bride by the lake. You felt the cold from the forge that never cooled. You touched the mirror that remembered more than it showed. You stepped where nights refused to forget, where witches whispered lullabies to no child at all, where clocks wept for stolen hours, and the hollow throne waited with empty arms. And through it all, the castle, still, endless, waiting like the pause before a story's final word. Did you leave something behind? Or did you carry something out with you? A memory, a sorrow, a question you can no longer unask? In Barovia, the end is never true. It turns in place, like a music box whose key is guilt, and whose song is longing. Strahd watches. Always. But it is not only he who lingers. There are echoes now, of every step taken, every word whispered in the dark, every hope that dared to stretch against the chains. Even if you never return, the valley will remember you. The mist will carry your shape. The wind will hum your tune. A raven will pause longer than it should, and blink with something almost like recognition. And the land will breathe. Once. Slowly. As if to say, yes, you were here, and you mattered. And now, the road curls once more. The fog thickens like velvet drawn across a stage, and from the woods, a soft voice calls. Not an ending, not a warning, just a beginning. Dressed in mist and ash and memory, the lanterns sway, the bride turns, the castle waits, and the mists rise, and rise, and rise.